Adaptation in plants. Let us observe some plants to study adaptation in them. For this purpose, let us consider lotus, cactus, banyan, rose, hibiscus plants and do a comparative study of their habitat, type of root, characteristics of leaves and characteristics of stem. Lotus is found in water. This plant has fibrous roots. Leaves of lotus are large, round, broad. Their leaves have a waxy layer. The stem of this plant is hollow and flexible. Cactus grows on land. Roots of cactus are a type of taproots. The leaves of this plant are like small needles or have been modified into thorns. The stem of this plant is fleshy and bulgy. The banyan plant grows on land. Banyan roots are a type of taproots and their prop roots are a type of aerial roots. The leaves of this plant are large, broad and oval-shaped. The stem of this plant is thick, hard and strong. Rose plant grows on land. Roots of rose are a type of taproots. The leaves of this plant are small with toothed edges. The stem of this plant is fine, delicate, green-colored and with a thin bark. Hibiscus grows on land. The roots of hibiscus are a type of taproots. The leaves of this plant are medium-sized and broad. They have toothed edges. The stem of this plant is hard and strong. The stem color is blackish brown and bark of the stem is thick. We can see similarities and differences in the habitat, types of roots, as well as in the structure of leaves and stems in all these plants. The characteristics observed in plants are related to the adaptations. Let us study about it step by step. Adaptation in aquatic plants. Now, let us perform an activity to study the adaptation in aquatic plants. Activity. Let us visit water bodies like a river, brook, pond, lake in our surroundings. After observing the plants growing there, we notice that terrestrial plants like banyan, peepal are tall. In comparison to the height of these plants, adaptations. Come, let us study this in detail. Roots of some aquatic plants are firmly rooted in the soil. Their stems are submerged in water, while their leaves and flowers float on the water surface. Some plants float on water along with their roots. Some plants can also be seen at the bottom of the water body. The stalks of plants like lotus and water hyacinth are soft, hollow and flexible. Most of the aquatic plants on their leaves and stems have a thin waxy layer. Leaves of some plants are slender, thin like a ribbon. This helps them to withstand fast currents of water. The air spaces in the stems and petioles help the aquatic plants to float on water. Come, now let us answer some questions. Water gets drained off from the surfaces of the leaves of the plants like lotus. Do you know why this happens? The leaves of lotus plants are large, round and broad with a thin waxy layer on their surface. Thus, water does not get accumulated on the leaves. Due to this characteristic of leaves, the leaves do not rot due to water. This plant grows in swampy areas. Therefore, roots of these plants do not have to spread far and wide in search of water. Hence, their roots are short. Besides, to anchor firmly in the soil, the roots of these plants are fibrous. After the study of adaptation in aquatic plants, now let us study about the adaptation in the plants of various regions. First, let us understand the adaptation in desert plants. Adaptation in desert plants. Now let us perform an activity to study the adaptation in desert plants. Activity. First, let us take a potted plant of cactus and a potted leafy plant. Label them as A and B respectively. Now let us loosely tie one plastic bag each around the leaves of both the plants. Keep both the pots in sunlight from early in the morning. In the afternoon, let us bring them inside the classroom and observe the plastic bags tied around both the plants. What do you observe? We can see water droplets collected in the plastic bags tied around the two plants. If we compare the amount of water, we realize that more water droplets are collected in the plastic bag tied around the potted plant labeled B as compared to the plastic bag tied around the potted plant labeled A. From this observation, we can conclude that compared to the leafy plant, the leaves of cactus plant excrete less amount of water. What must be the reason for this? Come, let us understand this. Desert plants do not have leaves or are in the form of small needles or have been modified into thorns. Due to this structure of leaves, very less amount of water is thrown out from their body in the form of water vapor. The potted plant labeled A in the activity was cactus. It is a desert plant. Thus, the amount of water excreted by this plant was less. This is the adaptation of desert plants which have to face scarcity of water. The stem of cactus plant stores water and food, therefore it becomes fleshy and bulgy. Due to the absence of leaves, the stems of these plants carry out photosynthesis and hence are green in color. Like aquatic plants, desert plants also have a thick waxy layer on their stem. The roots of these plants penetrate deep into the soil in search of water. After the study of adaptation in desert plants, now let us understand the adaptation in plants of snowy regions. Adaptation in plants of snowy regions. The plants in snowy regions mainly comprise of tall coniferous trees like deodar and pine. It snows heavily in these regions and there is extreme cold also in these regions. Therefore, the trees in these regions are conical shaped and have sloping branches. Due to the sloping branches, snow does not get accumulated on the tree. Similarly, due to the thick bark, they can withstand the cold. Adaptation is also seen in the plants of forest regions. Come, let us study about it. Adaptation in plants of forest regions. A variety of plants like trees, shrubs and herbs are found in the forest regions. All these plants compete amongst themselves to receive sunlight. Hence, they grow tall in the forests. Similarly, taking the support of these tall trees, climbers also grow tall. Some climbers have spring-like tendrils on their stems. They hold on the support firmly. The spring-like tendrils present on the stems of the climbers is the adaptation of stems. Now let us study adaptation in one more region. Adaptation in grassland plants. Diverse types of bushes and various types of grasses grow in the grasslands. The roots of these grasses are fibrous. This prevents soil erosion. Grasses found in the equatorial region grow very tall, due to which animals like tiger, lion, elephant and deer can remain hidden in them. Grasses found in the cold regions are very short, therefore animals like rabbits are found in them. Vast meadows are mainly found in hilly areas and plains. Come, now let us move to the next part. Pictures of some plants are shown here. Come, let us quickly see the adaptations in their parts. Potato plant shows adaptation of stem, while groundnut shows adaptation of roots. Adaptation of stem is seen in yam, while adaptation of stalk is seen in water hyacinth. Adaptation of leaves is seen in aloe vera, while adaptation of flowers is seen in acacia. Carrot shows adaptation of roots, onion shows adaptation of leaves, while beet plant shows adaptation of roots. Adaptation of stem is seen in bitter gourd, adaptation of roots is seen in radish, grapevine shows adaptation of stem. After the study of adaptation in the parts of plants, now let us study the adaptation for ingestion of food in plants. Adaptation for ingestion of food in plants. Most of the plants anchored in the ground are autotrophic, but few plants like dodder or cuscuta are parasitic. The plant body of dodder is made up of yellow wire-like stems. As it is a leafless plant, it cannot prepare its own food. However, to absorb nutrients from the host plant, it has hostorial or sucking roots. These roots penetrate up to the conducting vessels of the host plant to absorb food and water. Fungi is also a type of parasitic plant. As it does not have chlorophyll, it cannot carry out photosynthesis. It obtains food from starchy foodstuffs like bhakri and bread. Fungi have root-like fibers to absorb food. Plants require nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium for their growth. Plants like pitcher plant, Venus flytrap, Drosera that grow in the soil deficient in nitrogen consume insects to fulfill their need for nitrogen. These plants show adaptation of leaves or flowers to attract insects and hold them captive. Come, after the study of adaptation in plants, now let us study the adaptation in animals.